just getting him in there, you have to pick up this kid who is large. He's greater than 99th percentile for his height, and very fragile. He has osteoporosis. So just transitioning him from wheelchair to car to wheelchair, you have to, I don't know if you've gotten a kid in or out of a car seat how many times, but like that scrunching them up on a kid like Theo, who you're scrunching his G-tube, he's got brittle bones. It's just a very scary experience. And it also isn't sustainable as he gets older. So for us, that means getting an adaptive, accessible vehicle.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
You ready?
Sure. Do I need to move this?
Yeah, so you do have to talk somewhat close.
Into it?
Like, yeah, about this distance.
Is that good?
Yep, sounds good. But another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. This one's a fun one because it is about the Roughnecks volleyball tournament and where everything is going to. Without further ado, Kaitlyn, welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I am excited to have you on, and I thought about it, and I was like, I would like to have you on. The reason I wanted to do it is I wanted to share the story because I don't even know the full story at this point, just the things that I've read and everything like that. So I'd like to kind of get a little bit of an inside look, and I wanted people to know where their money is being put towards for the Roughnecks volleyball tournament. So just kind of start off this episode. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into Theo's story after that.
My name is Kaitlyn Moone. I went into editing after college. I was a journalism and English major, and so my husband and I have kind of moved all over the place. I married my high school sweetheart, and we grew up in the Utica area. Okay. So we went to college together, and then we've lived a whole bunch of places: Colorado, Virginia, West Virginia, moved back here. And I was working from home editing, and we have our 3 boys. So we have Theodore, his middle brother Jackson, and our newest from November, Samuel. Okay. So we moved back to be close to family, and I was working from home doing an editing job. And then everything with Theo happened, and that really has changed our entire lives. So Theodore has a rare disease called acute necrotizing encephalitis. Back in 2023, it was August of 2023, so we're coming up on 2 years. Okay. So it feels like it's crazy that it's gone this fast, but also it just seems like yesterday when everything happened. So Theodore had just a totally normal life up to that point. He was, meeting all his milestones. He was even advanced, like new colors, numbers, letters. Just, he was 2.5 at the time. Okay. So he just was a joy to be around. He made everybody laugh. He was really shy, but once he warmed up to you, he just was, I always kind of describe it as pure sunshine. Everybody smiled when they were around him. And he was just very, like, typical boy, I would say, getting into everything, but a very healthy, average child. And in August 2023, he got what we assume was a virus. That is what it typically triggers A&E. So we were just kind of hanging out. My husband was watching the boys while I was working from home that day, and Theodore was feeling a little off, but nothing major. So we had put him to bed, and like an hour later, he kind of started wrestling around in bed, and I went in to get him, and he had spiked a temperature up to 105, 106 out of nowhere. Obviously, did not put him to bed with that. Started having some febrile seizures, so we had called an ambulance and were transported to the hospital. The hospital couldn't figure out locally what was going on, and so they had us transferred to Children's in Columbus. And we just kind of expected it to be a virus that had triggered febrile seizures, that he spiked that temperature. And then you got the news that it just changed our whole lives, that a brain scan showed that he had A&E. So A&E causes a very stereotypical pattern of brain damage, and it's identified by an MRI scan. So when they do the MRI, there's just a very particular pattern, and it's identifiable right away as A&E. That tends to affect the central portion of your brain, and it's all of your motor functions. So he went from, literally that day, we have a photo of him from that afternoon hugging his brother and playing, to no longer talking, walking. Everything has to be done for him now. So he spent about a month and a half in the hospital at Children's. 2+ weeks of that were in the PICU, the pediatric ICU, on a ventilator, in a coma. He didn't start waking up until a few weeks into our stay there. So that's also very stereotypical of A&E, that they call it a cytokine storm, where you just go downhill very quickly. Within a matter of hours, he had severe brain inflammation, brain damage, loss of all functions. He had seizures, just all of these things. They happen very quickly, so it's very severe. The mortality rate for this disease is incredibly high, unfortunately, and it tends to mostly affect children. Unfortunately, they don't know a lot about it because it is classified as an ultra rare disease. So we spent a lot of time at Children's in the ICU, and when he was moved to a floor, he had to meet milestones to move to what they call a floor, is the less severe section of the hospital. So he had to get off the ventilator, be tolerating feeds. So he now has a G tube because he can't feed by mouth. And then from there, you process through getting him stable, basically. So we spent several weeks just trying to see, is he going to come out of this coma? Is he stable enough to go home, or is he requiring specialized care at the hospital? When we went home a month and a half later, I just remember the doctors came in, and it felt like both being there forever, because our family had to jump in and take care of our younger son, and we were stuck at the hospital because he just wasn't, for the longest time, it didn't feel safe to leave him, and long enough to go home an hour away and be gone from his side. So then it went to well, he's stable enough, let's send him home. But everything had changed. We had to do everything for him. He was still not in a coma, but not alert for most of the day, still very sedated throughout the day. And there were a lot of things that had changed from providing, he just got a G tube inserted, providing medications. We have to suction him to help him clear his respiratory airways. A lot of things that are usually done by medical professionals that suddenly were my job. And I was an English major. I wasn't somebody who'd gotten into the medical profession. So that was just a really huge life change, and it happened so quickly. I think even today, almost 2 years later, I feel like every day we're still just adjusting a little bit to something, whether it's his care is always changing, or just our day-to-day, we see just about every specialty in the book at Children's. We're always at appointments, and it just happens so quickly that there's just a little bit of trauma that goes along with that. When you go from, it felt like we'd had the best summer of our lives. We just moved into our house right up the road from my mom. We had our younger son, and so we were excited for having the brothers grow up and get outside and play, and suddenly that just isn't the case. It's hard to get out of the house now because Theo's in a wheelchair, so he's got to be packed up with all his equipment. You have to plan around, did I pack every medication? They're not they're not, it's not Tylenol. It has to be like they're, life-saving seizure medications and things like that. So just so much changed so quickly. And I think that we wouldn't have got through it had we not been in such a good community. I'm so thankful that we moved back to our hometown right before all this happened, because I just can't imagine. Everybody's really come through for us from just, living in a small town. People really come together when you're having a hard time. And I can't imagine doing that anywhere else that we lived, because we wouldn't have gotten through it without the support that we've had. Yeah.
So kind of going back a little bit, you said it all happens quickly. Is there any detection that you're like, knowing everything you know now, is there any way to detect it? It just happens.
That's what makes it so hard. They think this is a virally triggered disease. So they think the only thing that showed any viral numbers in his system at the time was roseola, which is a childhood virus that literally 99% of the pediatric population get. And most of them, 98% of them won't react, and there's no warning, there's no sign. And unfortunately, it's missed in a lot of cases, because it is so rare that if you don't go in soon enough and you think that it's just a virus, it can just go bad very quickly. Yeah. But that's also what makes it so severe and damaging, because there aren't a lot of treatments for it. There's a couple things that they give. So they do plasmapheresis, which is really cool. They have a machine. It takes your blood and plasma out, cleans it all up, and puts it back in, so that you have like the best shot at everything working for you. And there's, high dose steroids to help with inflammation and some other just like medicines that they can give, but it's really treating a problem. There's no detecting it ahead of time, unfortunately. Yeah.
That's tough. And because I was just curious if there was anything. Because I've honestly, to be honest, I've never even heard of it. Most people haven't. Yeah, it's because I've been saying A&E when I've been talking about it, and they're like, what does that stand for? And I'm like, don't ask me to try and pronounce it, because I will more than likely mess it up. So I'll just stick with A&E for now. I always tell people, just look it up and you'll figure out what it is. But it's. So what was the time frame from when you went to the hospital to when you went home?
It was about a month and a half. Okay. Yeah. We went in mid-August and came home like the last day of September. Okay. Yeah.
That had to be definitely a big adjustment coming home, like you talked about with you're now almost like a doctor in a way, and you didn't have 8+ years of schooling like the other people did. So how was that adjustment for you personally? Did you have to make any, not like, I don't want to say lifestyle changes, but what kind of changes did you kind of have to make in your day-to-day life? Obviously there's a bunch, but
everything. Yeah. Literally everything. I remember saying to the doctors, when they deemed him stable enough, and they said the last step for him was really getting that G-tube surgery and then making sure that he was tolerating feeds after. So that means they implant a tube in your stomach, and you'll have a little feed bag and a cord, and that's how he gets his formula every day. So because he can't take anything by mouth, everything is supplemented. We push his medications through there, his feeds through there. And that's just how he eats. So when that surgery was completed, the doctors came in and they said, well, it looks like he's tolerating this. You get to go home. And for them, it was like, yay. And I remember looking at them, and there's a whole team. Like, the nurses go through shifts. So in a day, he gets 3 nurses and several supporting, like, nurses with lesser degrees who are still going through school and getting their RNs and stuff like that. And then there's a whole team of doctors and specialists. And I said, you're sending me home to care for them, and you're acting like it's no big deal, but there's, 15 to 20 of you per day that care for him. There's the pharmacy staff, and I'm taking on these 15 to 20 roles myself. I'm his PT, his physical therapist, his occupational therapist. I'm moving his body for him. I'm giving medications. I'm turning, he can't even roll over in bed. You have to turn him to help support his body so that he's not getting any bed sores or anything like that. And I said, well, yeah, it's exciting. I'm glad that he's well enough to go home, but I'm taking on the role of 15 people in, one time. And that it was really overwhelming because you had a kid who just came out of a coma. His whole life changed. He's super fragile. You have to move his arms and his legs for him. It's just very intimidating. And I think it's kind of that sink or swim mentality where you're just thrown in the deep end. And it's I went into survival mode and you just kind of do it. It's not because there is no other choice. We didn't have nursing support at the time. It was just me at home. I had to leave my job that I had been doing because he requires 24-hour care. So I'm caring for him during the day. He gets medications and feeds overnight. You have to turn him overnight and help him with that. So it just, literally everything changed. I said the other day to someone too that, I used to be a fun mom and now I'm just kind of surviving. I feel we never quite left that survival mode yet in a sense because he's made a lot of progress and improvements. He's not where he was. But then, unfortunately, I think with any medically complex child, you just learn that there will be setbacks. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we had a lot of setbacks over the winter. He was diagnosed. He has seizures as a result of all the brain damage, which we'd been dealing with. But then he was diagnosed with osteoporosis because his seizure meds leached all of those vitamins and minerals out of his bones. And his osteoporosis was pretty severe that happened within the span of a year. And so then we went from just having a child who needed extra help to having an extremely fragile child who needed extra help again. And so it's just that constant up and down of you address certain issues and you come out from that and then probably have a setback. But that means I went from the person who was pretty averse to going to the doctor to spending literally 90% of my week on the phone or messaging through my chart with medical staff, whether it's therapies, specialists, nurses. Running to the pharmacy is my get out of the house time. Yeah, I'm going to go talk to my pharmacist friends over here. And so it just literally everything. I went from being able to take him out oh, we had a tough day. Mom had a lot of meetings. Let's run out and go to the park after work. Yeah. That's just not possible now. There's you can't leave the house without packing his equipment, without giving him anti-nausea meds so that he can tolerate the car ride. So there just isn't a single part of my life that hasn't changed as a result of that. And it's tough because it's not just Theodore that's affected. It's everybody. My other kids don't have the same mom that Theo had before everything happened. And there's definitely some guilt involved in that, but we just do our best to try to involve Theo as much as we can. And we've tried to really embrace having our house be our special place to get him out as much as we can and just have it be so that we're not trapped there, but we're, really enjoying the space that we have.
I want to touch on it, if you're willing, the guilt side of things. Balancing that, because this podcast, I really like to try and give advice to people and help people. And, a mother might be listening that's just going through very similar things as you. So I wanted to talk about kind of managing that, because it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what it is, but it can't be easy. So kind of managing that guilt, especially with having 2 younger kids as well, and other family. It's not just, and friends and everything. I'm sure friends that you've been friends with for a long time, obviously that relationship maybe not ended, but it changed. It definitely changed. So kind of touch on how you balance and manage that guilt side of things that's you're naturally gonna feel.
Well, as I said, I've been so incredibly lucky with our community, and it's good that we did move back when we did, because we do have those really, even though we lived away from Utica for about 10 years, and even coming back, the people we went to high school with, like those relationships just picked up in that small town way that they tend to. And we were really blessed with people who've stood by us, who've lended support, who've said the same thing with, I might not understand, but you can, you know, vent, complain, provide whatever type of stress relief is needed. And that's been really amazing just to have that on offer. I think one of the biggest things is also meeting people who have had similar experiences. There's a Facebook group that I found like through looking up different conditions. Theodore's condition is very similar, not the condition itself, but the like issues that you deal with from the brain damage are very similar to somebody who has cerebral palsy. And so our doctors had recommended, because A&E is so rare, look for some groups that have people with cerebral palsy children, because they will be able to identify with what you're experiencing. And so even just like reading some of those things and reading how they've dealt with it has been really helpful. But there is also an A&E family group. And that's been amazing because they do absolutely get it. They get that like split second, the trauma changes your life from, you know, my other son got the flu this past winter and it was very scary. The flu is what typically causes A&E in most people. I would say like it's much more common than the virus that they think caused it with Theo. And so it's that, is he going to have a response? Like, is this going to trigger A&E for him? And I felt guilt in that sense because I had to send him to my mom's house to be with my husband and my mom, and I couldn't be there caring for him because I had to mask up. I had to go get Clorox wipes. I had to get out the hand sanitizer and just hopefully keep Theo from getting sick, because for him, any hospitalization like that results, or any illness like that results in a hospitalization. So there's the sense of like, I want to be there for my child, but you almost have to pick between the two. And unfortunately, I'm the one most equipped to care for Theo at this point. My husband works outside the home. That's how he's supporting us, so that I can stay home and care for Theo. And so when something like that happens, he has to go with our other child or children, depending on the situation, and I have to stay and care for Theo. So there's that like dealing with that division. And I think one of the biggest helpers for me has been a mom that I met who had a medically complex child. She passed away, but she just really gets the experience of what we're going through, the making choices on which child do you stay with and care for, and you want to be there for all of them, but you're also trying to protect the one who's so susceptible to like more far-reaching consequences. And I think having somebody who I knew of before this and really connected with them after his injury, or they call it an episode, an A&E episode. Some people have recurring episodes, but after his episode and resulting brain injury, just connecting with her, even though her child had a completely different diagnoses and experience, having somebody to like bounce those moments of guilt and experiences off of, where there isn't really anything to make it better. You can't make it better. But just knowing that somebody like truly understands how you feel and what you're struggling with, just that alone can be really helpful in a sense, more for my ability to process it, just like getting those thoughts out there and then kind of helping me process it, versus it's not like you're not really expecting somebody to make it better because you can't fix the situation. It's just kind of how you're dealing with it in the moment. And really, I can only do the best I can. And I just hope every day that that's enough, and that that's like what my kids will think when they get older, that my other two will know that I wanted to be there as much for them as I do for Theo. And I just hope that comes through in the other moments that I tell my husband. It's not, might not always be equal in time, but it's definitely equal in love. Like, I definitely love them as much and I want to be with them, and I'm trying to do the best for everybody. And I hope that that's, you know, what comes through as they grow up and think back on those hard days.
Yeah, I hope they don't, but if the kids do, like the younger ones, or even, you know, relationships, it's a lot of times we don't realize like what our parents are doing until later in life. I know there's a lot of situations when I was younger where you'd get real upset with mom and dad, but then now later in life you look back and you're like, oh, well, I guess that kind of does make sense, like what was happening, especially in your case. And I will say, from the outside looking in, not that I know you well, like this is our first time meeting.
Yeah.
We spoke on the phone once and had some text messages back and forth, but you're doing a great job, because it's, and I'm sure you don't hear that enough. It, or may not feel like you hear it enough, but I promise you, from the outside looking in, you're doing a great job, and you can tell your care, like you truly do care. You don't see that in too many people, whether it's, you know, in this situation or outside of anything like that. You're a caring person. You truly care about not only Theo, but everybody, it seems like. So I really respect that out of you, and I can tell you that you are a great mom.
Gonna make me cry. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. But I just kind of want to also touch on, I did have a question. You may have already answered this and I may have missed it. Is this a curable disease, or can you just help? Is it just helping as much as you can?
Yeah, so the disease itself is not curable.
Okay.
There are treatments for the effects.
Okay.
But unfortunately, with brain damage, you can't fix the damage that was there. A lot of times, kids, as they grow, can rewire their brains. It's really incredible and amazing. Like, their brains, because they were still developing, can continue to rewire in ways that were unexpected. For Theo, it's hard. He wasn't necessarily even expected to wake up.
Okay.
The damage that he sustained was very, very severe. The fact that he's here is a miracle. The fact that he's alert and engaged and responding in therapies is incredible. And I say engaged and responding for him. So he's nonverbal, non-ambulatory, which basically, obviously, nonverbal is not talking, but non-ambulatory means he doesn't move around independently without help. So he might be able to, now he's been working on reaching or pushing, but like he's not going to stand up and walk anytime soon, if ever. And that's okay. It's really more about, I think people are always looking for a miracle, and that's really amazing. That kind of carried me through the first year. At this point, I think that would be doing a disservice to him, because you might be expecting something or pushing him towards something that just isn't possible. And so for me, it's more about meeting him where he is and fighting to get him the equipment that he needs to be as involved as he can, to provide the best quality of life that we can where he is now, and just kind of see where his progress goes. So a really exciting thing for us that happened in the spring, he'd been working with a speech therapist at Children's to try out occasionally some eye gaze devices. So it looks like an iPad, and you rig it up on the table in front of you, and then it registers your eye gaze, and you can look at things with your eyes. So like you could select a video, or it could have my picture there, and when he looks at my picture, it'll say mom, and that's how he could call out for me. So it provides a level of communication that he can't do verbally, but allows him cognitively to process what he's seeing and communicate however he can. He did an updated eval in the spring and did so amazing that he's going to be approved through insurance to get his own eye gaze device. So we're really excited for that. Everything with insurance takes forever, months and months and months, for whether it's a wheelchair that you have to have, a car seat that you have to have, or something like this for communication. It just takes so long. But he's in the process of getting an eye gaze device, so that'll open up a whole level of communication that he hasn't yet been able to do. And I'm really excited for him to see how that better integrates him, because it'll meet him where he is with communication and allow him to be involved, where now he can't tell me, you know, he could look at his stomach when I ask a question and say what hurts or what doesn't feel good. He could look at pictures, oh, my stomach, oh, my head, or he could call for me. He could watch videos. They have games. And when he did his trial, his therapies were just so excited because he did so well that they actually made it harder to prove intentionality. They wanted to like show, yes, he's intentionally doing this. So they made him have to like hold his gaze on things for a longer period of time to make a choice. And he just immediately was doing it. So for us, that's so exciting because it validates what I've been telling, you know, the medical professionals and the people who work with him, to say, look, he understands more than he can communicate. And asking him those questions, asking him to make choices and seeing him immediately do it was just so validating, so exciting for all of us, because he is very subtle in his cues. And so unless you know him well, some people like don't necessarily pick up on those cues. And it just felt really great to see that progress for him and to see him get that win. And so we're kind of just waiting on that to process now.
Yeah.
And it's like little things like that, improvements in therapy, things like that are just kind of what we're looking at for the future. There's no surgery that can fix the damage that was caused. When the brain is damaged, those parts just kind of go away. Sometimes they become scar tissue, sometimes liquid, sometimes they just like fade into nothing. Sometimes things rewire. But with damage as severe as his was, it doesn't just like get fixed in the way that somebody could have surgery to fix, you know, a broken arm or a torn ligament or something. So we're just kind of trying to be patient and take it day by day and really just celebrate the little wins, because for him, those are the huge wins.
Exactly,
like to us, you know, they might seem so little to somebody else, like, oh, he lifted his hand, but to him, he worked so hard to do that. And so just trying to keep in mind that we're celebrating in different ways. My baby is trying to walk and, you know, he's standing, and you're celebrating those things. And when you look at those typical things, people celebrate that. And for Theo, we celebrate things on a big scale that look like small scale to people. And I think some people like they have different expectations when they meet him or see him. But it's just that we're celebrating the things that in his brain, the wiring and the processing of that is so much more difficult for him. The other day he reached up and he rubbed his brother's arm when they were cuddling. And for him, his brother had said before he did that, he said, Theo, can you rub my arm? We're cuddling. And Theo did, like almost immediately. And the response time was fast. The intentionality behind it, like for him, it was a small movement, but huge in the grand scheme of showing that he's in there, showing that he knows what's going on around him, and just really making sure we're including him. Like for him, that is our treatment. That is our progress that we're looking for, is just trying to give him the best quality of life.
Yeah. So my one final question kind of with this aspect of things is, when you're going through all these ups and downs, which we all go through in different scales of our lives, when you're on your down, like a bad day, what do you try to remember to help the day get better, I guess I should say?
I think I try to remember that my kids deserve better, that they, you know, Theo didn't do anything to deserve this. This was a horribly horrific, tragic, rare thing that happened to him. And so I just always try to keep in mind that no matter what's going on, like none of this is his fault. None of this is like, none of my frustrations should ever come out on my family or my kids. And my younger kids, they're Theo's little brothers, so they're even smaller. One just turned 3 and one is about 8 months. And so they don't get it. So like if I'm having a bad day, they don't necessarily understand that. And I really just try to because they don't know what's going on with Theo. Like, they know, yes, we have to be gentle with him, and he's a little different than other friends and kids that we've met. But, they're young and they don't fully understand. And so I just really, use that perspective to push me through to think about they don't get why I'm having a bad day. So I can't, let that out on them. And I try to just really focus on getting through those moments and using the downtime. So everybody's napping for a reset, whether that's a call with a friend, a coffee on the porch swing, any little 5-minute chunk of time just to try to get some fresh air, take a deep breath, and push through at least until everyone's in bed and you can be more frustrated or whatever that is, crying in the shower, whatever gets you through. But I think really it's just thinking about my kids and thinking about their experience and not wanting them to look back and remember a mom who was always angry and frustrated about the situation. And that doesn't, that's not to say that I'm always successful. It's just I live for those little moments to reset and rein it in after, the umpteenth million insurance call where you're fighting about the same thing. Or
I'm sure pretty much everybody listening understands the insurance. You deal probably with them a lot more than most, but it is a big fight and it's never fun.
It really is not. And it's something I wish I could have gone forever without having to deal with that side of things. But yeah, I think we're very blessed to live in a really, we have a couple acres and a little bit of space between cornfields out there. So it provides the fresh air reset that I need just to step away and feel okay, well, I have another call in a few minutes, but there's time to get out here and look at this beautiful space that we live in and just have a sip of coffee. And I live for the moments of joy in between the hard things. And whether that's Theo smiled at me today, or his brother learning something new, or seeing them play together just makes me really happy, because you can tell Theo loves that, but you can also see look at my other son who's being so kind and empathetic and loving to his brother despite their differences. And it's just those little moments in between that kind of get me through.
That's awesome. So I want to also touch on, I believe we spoke about it on the phone, the big thing that you guys are trying to, get the money for, raise the money for, and that's where we're going to help with the volleyball tournament. So I wanted you to touch on the big thing that you guys are needing right now, and where all this, for them, the GoFundMe and even our volleyball tournament, of where all that money is being put towards.
So right now, Theo has an adaptive car seat. It goes in the back of my car like a normal car seat, but it's more for children of a larger size who don't have the body strength to hold themselves in the proper positioning and things. However, it's not ideal because just getting him in there, you have to pick up this kid who is large. He's greater than 99th percentile for his height, and very fragile. He has osteoporosis. So just transitioning him from wheelchair to car to wheelchair, you have to, I don't know if you've gotten a kid in or out of a car seat how many times, but that scrunching them up on a kid like Theo, who you're scrunching his G-tube, he's got brittle bones. It's just a very scary experience. And it also isn't sustainable as he gets older. So for us, that means getting an adaptive, accessible vehicle. And what that is, it would be like a van. So we're looking at minivans, and that would allow us to wheel Theo's wheelchair, which is fitted to him, fitted to his exact sizing. It is more reclinable positioning wise. It's safer for him. We put him in it in the house. We wheel him out to the van. A ramp would come down and you'd wheel him right in and cinch his wheelchair down in the van and just go to an appointment. So that takes something that right now is both unsafe and also a very long process, which for him is dangerous. So in extreme temperatures, a side effect of a brain injury is temperatures dropping or rising with the outside temperature. So when we're having those like really cold winter this year, getting him outside, I literally would take his heated blanket to Children's to like keep him from going hypothermic at appointments, because just the exposure to the elements is a lot. So when you're taking the time to set him up outside, get him out, get him in his adaptive car seat, it's just dangerous for him. So right now we're trying to raise funds to get a van where we could just wheel him up the ramp, cinch him in, and go. And that would also allow us to get him out a little more. Right now, because of the situation and the safety aspect, we're really just going to medical appointments, which is not a great way to live from a quality of life perspective, but it's also really hard to justify taking him out when it could pose a danger to him from a transfer perspective. So we're just hoping that if and when we can get this accessible vehicle, that it would allow us to do more as a family, that would bring joy to his life, that would allow him to be more involved, and to allow us like literally just going to the park as a family together, not like talking big, huge things, but things that like normal families do or that we used to do just aren't possible right now. And so it would just open up his world to be more safe, but also to get him more quality of life, because he just deserves that.
He does. It definitely, you all deserve it. So,
Thanks.
but no, I will say, as of today, right now, which we're recording this about a week and a half before the actual tournament, we are already at $500. So I'm super happy, and I think we might have a very good chance to exceed the goal that I had originally set of 2,000. So hopefully that's the case, because we've already had donations come in, sponsors that would give extra money and say put the rest to donations. So it's I'm very, like we talked about, the community around has, even the people you've never met in your entire life, the community is already coming together. So I'm super excited. Everything from the volleyball tournament, whether it's raffle tickets sold, any merch that I sell or anything like that, all of the money made off of that is going to you guys. Like I said, the goal is 2,000, so we're trying to help out the best that we can. We'll also have the QR codes around for the GoFundMe. So our goal is 2,000. Hopefully we can exceed that and help you guys any way we can.
That means so much to us. Losing my job was a big hit. It was hard. The economy is not in a great spot right now. Everything is getting more expensive, and we cut an entire income completely unanticipated. And so when you then add in all the medical expenses and supporting kids, it means so much that people are willing to give to us to help us. And I know not everybody is able to do that, and some people are saying, well, I could only buy a t-shirt or give $10, but like that means so much. Whether it's 10, 50, 100, every single donation is big to us. There are no like small amounts, and I just can't express how much it touches us to hear how much people are invested in Theo, and I call it Theo's community because they're near, they're far, and it just means a lot that people care about his progress and care about getting him out and involved, and we really appreciate what you're doing for us.
Yeah. Well, I can't take any credit for it. Everything's the community on this. I just got the ball rolling on not my end of things. That's all I did. Everybody else is doing a great job. So I'm excited. July 26th, the Roughnecks volleyball tournament, and everything's going to Theo and your family. So it'll be a fun day. Just a few things on the volleyball tournament while I'm talking about it, because this will come out the Wednesday before. It is open to the public as well. If you can't make it, I'll have a GoFundMe link in the description of this episode. But if you guys can make it, we'll have Low Gap playing music from 12:30 to 2:30. There will be teams playing volleyball. There's food, there's drinks, there's cornhole, there's yard games. There's all kinds of stuff for people to do, and you can just come hang out and have a good time. So looking forward to it. July 26th, we will start at noon, so it'll be open at noon. So
I'm hoping to be there. So I don't know if Theo can make it.
Okay.
It'll kind of depend on how he's feeling, but I'm excited to come and see people play and have a good time.
It gets competitive out there. I speak from experience. I was just there last night, and I will be back there again tomorrow. So I play too much volleyball right now, but I don't play in my own tournament. I still I sit behind the scenes on that one. So, but I'm excited. Hopefully you guys can make it. If not, we understand. But we'll have plenty of pictures online and everything, and some videos as well. So I'm excited. So thank you for sharing Theo's story. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and it does not go unnoticed. So
thank you.
Yep. Bye, everybody.